speeches time. Can you please give a warm welcome to the father of the groom, where's Beattie?
He's just over there.
Thank you for that. It's a terrible thing when you get old and they took the old songs they play for the waltzes, you know, for the bride and groom and the father. I knew all the words to it. It's a tragedy. Well, I want to hear talk about John. John was born. Which was a miracle. No, John was born at the end of winter, 31st of August 1985. And we named him after his two grandfathers. One, John Sharp, and one, Gordon Beattie. And here I must say how lucky he is that he's got me and Madeline as parents, because we named him John Gordon instead of Gordon John. But his sisters from a very early age called him Catherine. He had two older sisters, and they used to enjoy dressing him up as a girl and doing his hair up and calling him Catherine. In our family, John was one of the odd ones. As each birthday passed, it became more obvious. Because Andrew was born in 76. Mathematicians, get on this one quickly. Mark was born in 78. Claire was born in 80. I've got it. Lil was born in 82. Oh, no. But John was 85. Oh, no. Yeah. That's definitely his fault. Give a bit of time, please. Yeah, I broke a 2-year habit, you know. The leap year threw me out completely. Now, I just want to say that John has been a wonderful son. He's brought us great joy and humour and love over the past 32 years, as well as anxiety, worry. It's all those, and I can, you know, a lot of young parents out there, it's all those normal things that parents just experience when they're raising children. But Madeline and I tonight are proud to say that John is our son. Now, like all of John's siblings and John, they had a special bond with their gran, and in fact John mentioned it today. He used to visit his gran a couple of times each week after school. But John took his visits a little bit further than everybody else had done. He not only visited his gran, he took his mates from school with him. The reason was Gran's quick wit, her wonderful sense of fun, and they were treated like kings and showered with treats. Gran always said that she wanted to live long enough to see what became of her grandchildren, especially when they grew up. Well, she didn't, but all I can say, Johnny, she would have been proud of the man you are today. When raising young children, there's one thing that you always dread, and that is silence. Suddenly, everything goes quiet, and you realise there is something amiss. Madeline found John in the pantry, covered from head to toe in food dye. He would have been perhaps 2. I mention this because I love the photo of Madeline that Madeline took of him. My cute, blonde-haired child, blue-eyed, blue-skinned, with this beautiful cheeky smile looking straight at the camera. So, a photo I'll always cherish. It's in the lock-up at present, but when I move into our new house, I'll do that, thank you. John always loved basketball. Growing up in our family, he had to. He had many basketball highs, but winning the state championship was the highlight. Not to forget the road trip to the Nationals. A photo comes to mind of several young men, many of whom stand here before me, standing beside a bus, backs to the camera, admiring the view of the bush in front. I remember one game where he fell very heavily on his wrist. It was a bit sore, he got up and played on. Later, he had his wrist x-rayed, and yes, it was broken. So in the plaster for 6 weeks. At the end of 6 weeks, back to the GP, he had a look at the x-rays. Ooh, I think you better stay in plaster for another 6 weeks, John. Well, can you imagine JB not being able to do anything for another 6 weeks? It was like living in a cage with a wild animal. Finally, it's x-ray time, back to the specialist. The specialist looks at the x-ray, and I can see it in my mind like it was yesterday. He looks at the x-ray and says, oh, that plaster can come off. In fact, from what I can see there, it was probably well knitted at 6 weeks. John slipped down in his seat. He disappeared from sight with a moan, and on the way home he gave me a very colourful thoughts about the medical profession in Tasmania. I have to mention Australia Day parties. What occasions they were. The chant would go up, mad dog, or where's Beattie, Beattie's dad?
Where's Beattie, Beattie's dad? Where's Beattie, Beattie's dad? Where's Beattie?
And that meant one of two things. It was either photo time or pizza time! Pike Beach and Australia Day became synonymous with having a damn good time. One year, the lads decided that it would be a good idea to jump off the roof into the waiting arms of their friends below. It's not a high roof, but it was a jump that required a leap of faith. I thought at least John had had the good sense not to do it. But on his stag day just a few weeks ago, he revealed to me that he had waited until Mad and I were nowhere to be seen, and then he jumped off. I remember that very clearly because Tim P was in the group, catching at the bottom, and Tim was practicing how when one jumped off the roof, he just bounced off. But luckily it didn't happen. The house in Goulburn Street, where John moved into. Special time for all those who lived there. In fact, last night I met the originals were there last night. We had a drink down the road. The originals. It was a time that everyone who lived there would look back on with fond memories and wonder, how the hell did I survive? It was great to catch up with them last night, yeah. John has many great friends, and Madeline and I have always enjoyed catching up with them, and now, of course, their partners or wives, and their ever-expanding families. Imagine, if you can, incorporating a uni course into a series of Seinfeld. John would have graduated within a year. John also has amazing memories and can remember details and stats from events long forgotten by the rest of us. And when we're talking about uni, we're also very proud of John because right now he's back at uni and doing a teacher course, so he's going to follow that long line of sharp Beattie teachers. John loves family. He has a great relationship with all his siblings. There's always a great excitement with his nieces and nephews when we hear that John and Maddie are coming to Tasmania. We say to the grandkids, John's coming to Tasmania. And they look at us and say, who? And we say, JB's coming to Tasmania. And they say, oh, great. We had mixed feelings about John travelling overseas. Our youngest heading off into the world. On the other hand, we'd been meeting with John once a week for lunch. We don't know what he ate for the rest of the week, but there was always a good feed when we took him out to lunch, I can tell you. We couldn't believe how much spare cash we had after he left. Our wallets were a little bit fuller, but our hearts were a lot emptier. You can imagine our surprise and delight when John told us that he had met someone in America. John said Maddie was just his type. Well, she loved sport and she loved the beer. It soon became apparent that they were becoming more than friends. A romance had started and there was love in the air. Later that year, Madeline suggested we join John in Scotland to celebrate his 30th birthday. Great idea. We met in Edinburgh and for a couple of days before his birthday, and it was in the Queen's Ferry Motel. Can't remember the name of the room, or the number of the room that is, that we first met Maddie. And we could finally put a face to the name. Maddie could only stay a couple of days because I think she had to shoot back to work across the Atlantic. But what a birthday we had that year. John and Maddie, Crippo and Elise, and Madeline and I. And we ended the night at God knows what time in an old church drinking these huge pots of Guinness. That's the way I remember Crippo. Drinking these huge pots of, and watching Crippo outthink a mind reader. I was terrified the day that he was going to come out the front and have both his hand out like this and say, which hand do you think my rings are in? Since then, we've spent a lot of time with Maddie, on many occasions in both Tassie and Manly. The whole family have gotten to know her and can see the joy and happiness she brings to John's life. We also had the pleasure of meeting Maddie's parents, that is, Michael and Diane, in 2016, and spent a lot of time with them in Tasmania over Christmas and New Year. Surviving a Park Beach Christmas surrounded by the whole family is a commendable effort. As you know, John is a great talker, and it soon became apparent from what John was saying and telling us that Maddie and he were sharing thoughts and feelings on a whole range of issues. They were also wanting to see more of each other and spend time together. As a young man, like a Beattie, I think I just remember it, I used to travel 3.5 hours from Devonport to Hobart every weekend to see the girl I had fallen in love with. But Madeline found out and put a stop to it. So it was easy. You can't help that up. So it was easy to understand what was happening with John and Maddie. The commute, however, across the Atlantic was a little further than the one I'd used to. When you know that you have found the one you love, every day you spend apart is more difficult, and every day you spend together is more of a joy. Madeline and I fell in love 44 years ago, and I can only wish John and Maddie the happiness that we have found on our life's journey. And so today, we all witnessed John and Maddie bring their love, bringing them to this boathouse here in Manly to make a commitment to each other in what was a very moving and fun-filled ceremony. Welcome Maddie to our family, and Madeline and I wish Maddie and John continued happiness and all our best wishes for a future filled with love.